Hello, and welcome to the kitchen. We're here in southwestern Ontario testing out America's Test Kitchen's Foolproof Vinaigrette. Now with a traditional vinaigrette, it consists of oil and vinegar along with some seasonings blended together to create a dressing. The problem is that over time this dressing likes to separate, and this is due to the difference in molecule size. Now when added to a salad, that can create an unbalanced salad, and all that dressing can pool at the bottom, and nobody likes eating their whole salad just to find out that most of their dressing ended up on the plate. Fortunately, there's a simple solution to this, and it's called emulsification. This is the binding of two ingredients or two liquids, so in our case oil and vinegar, together with an emulsifier, which will help bind those ingredients together and help them stay together for a lot longer. Three common emulsifiers are Dijon mustard, egg yolk, and mayonnaise. Dijon mustard is the weakest of the three. It has a nice flavor, but it can be overpowering. Egg yolk is the strongest of the three. It contains lecithin, which will help bind those molecules together and keep them together for a lot longer time. Unfortunately, egg yolk isn't very tolerable by most people because it's raw. It also doesn't have a very good flavor. Now mayonnaise contains egg yolk and it's pasteurized, so you don't have to worry about it being raw. It's also flavorless in most cases, which is why it will be our choice ingredient for today's recipe. Now you can choose light or regular mayonnaise. Either will work as long as it still contains egg yolk, because we don't want to lose out on that lecithin. Now we also have our vinegar. Today I'm using white wine vinegar, but you can use champagne vinegar or red wine vinegar. The choice is yours. As long as you purchase a high quality ingredient. As well as the olive oil. You want to make sure you get high quality ingredients for this recipe, because the quality will determine how good the flavor is in the end. With being such a simple recipe, the flavor is all that we have. So now that we know a little bit about emulsification, as well as some of the ingredients that we'll be using today, let's dive in and make this recipe. The first thing we're going to do is dice up our shallots. Now we want to make sure we're dicing them as small as possible. This process is called mincing. Now when we're cutting anything, we want to make sure we're using the proper technique, because nobody likes losing a finger. The proper technique is 1 in the front, 2 behind. And you want to make sure you have a sharp knife as well, because a dull knife can actually be more dangerous than a sharp knife. When we're slicing, we want to slice as thin as possible. I like to slice and leave a little bit extra on the back side. This helps hold my whole shallot together and prevent it from just falling all over the place. So we're going to slice it as thin as we possibly can. And then we're also going to come in from the side. We also want to make sure that our fingers are still tucked in, creating like a claw shape. And again, I'm not going to go all the way through. I'm going to stop just before the end. That'll help hold all of them together. And I'm doing it about twice just to even out all of the dice. And then again, I'm going to go the other way now. And I'm just going to slice all the way through now and get a nice even dice of these shallots. And there we go. Now for this recipe, we want 1.5 tablespoons of diced or finely minced shallots. So there's 1 teaspoon. Another 1/2 teaspoon. Now for this recipe, we can add all of our ingredients except for the oil right off the bat. Because we're creating an emulsification, we're allowing all of the ingredients to come together prior to mixing in the oil so that we can make sure the flavor is well blended. Start by adding our mayonnaise, our Dijon mustard, a half a teaspoon of each, 1 tablespoon of white wine vinegar, and some salt and pepper. Now you don't want to add too much salt and pepper to start. You can always add more, but you can never take it away. Now we're just going to whisk this up until it's well blended and there's no lumps of mayonnaise left in there. Now before we add the oil, we want to do what I like calling nesting the bowl. If you notice, that time I was whisking and I was holding the bowl with my hands. But this time I'm going to have both hands busy. So that bowl is going to move around while I'm whisking. To prevent that, we just take a dish towel, spin it around a couple times. We're going to round the bowl, creating like a nest. We're just going to tuck under some of them, just one side underneath the bowl. Try it again. Now a handy alternative to this, if you have friends or family around, you can get them to hold the bowl. So now that our bowl's in place, it's not going to be going anywhere, we're going to add our oil. And when we're adding the oil, we want to make sure we add it in a smooth stream. And about halfway we're going to stop, make sure that there's no pools on top, and then continue mixing it in. If any pools do form at any time, stop mixing in the oil and whisk it up until it stops. We'll start slowly drizzling it in. Okay, we're about halfway, so I'm going to stop. Make sure there's no pools forming on top there. Good. And we'll just continue adding the rest. Now you'll notice the way I'm whisking is in a back and forth method. This method was tested by America's Test Kitchen and found to be the best method of mixing and the most efficient way of mixing ingredients together in a bowl rather than the traditional round the bowl method. Just keep whisking this oil in, all of it has been added. And that is it. Alright, and now we have our foolproof vinaigrette. You can tell that it's lightly thickened, it's not watery or by any means, and it has a nice shine to it. All that's left now is to add it to our greens. Today I've chosen a spring mix. Now you can choose any greens that you like. All or most greens will work with this recipe. I'm just going to go ahead and add in our foolproof vinaigrette. And then with a clean set of hands, we're going to mix up this dressing into the salad. I still find mixing a salad by hand is one of the easiest and most effective ways to mix a salad. That way you can prevent wilting the salad or damaging any of those leaves, as well as you can evenly just distribute that dressing throughout all of the salad. Now this dressing, or this recipe, made about a 1/4 cup of dressing, and that's enough to cover 8 to 10 cups of lightly packed lettuce. All right, I'm gonna wash my hands. And now for my favorite part. You can already see, even from this camera angle, the dressing has evenly covered all of the leaves. It's not pooled at the bottom, and there's a nice shine to all of it. So let's go ahead and taste it. Mm. Mm. Wow, that's really good. You can taste the creaminess from the mayonnaise, and it's thick enough not to feel soggy in your mouth, but to complement those lettuce leaves. The flavor of the vinegar and the shallots, as well as that oil, was all well combined, all in there. Mm. Well, I'd say that's a great recipe. Well, that's all for today. Thank you for joining me. My name's Kyle Scherenberg. Have a great night.